Hello folks, good evening. Welcome to the August 8th, 2023 meeting of the Northfield Selectboard. This meeting is called to order at this time. First up, we have a scheduled appointment at 6 p.m. Assistant Town Clerk appointment for Dan Campbell. Dan, Amanda, please come up. So let's see here with Dan, you seek interest to become now the Assistant Town Clerk. Retirement didn't suit you, I suppose.
Well, you know, I've kind of regretted the punishment, I guess, or whatever it is. But it's great to hopefully be back as far as doing that. I don't think I've forgotten too much over the last month. So there is going to be a tremendous year coming up. I just found out that there's going to be 42 initiative petitions coming out next year, which means thousands 42? Of signatures that's going to have to be verified. So that's going to be, that's what I will be doing.
Wow.
So, but yes, I'm glad to be back. Hopefully it's and we have a great chemistry here, so that's going to work out, I think, to our advantage.
And there was a hiring process involved in this.
Yep, Sarah was on that committee, as was myself. I don't know if you want to talk to the process.
Yes, we did some screening interviews with a board of 5, and then a board of 3 did final interviews. And we thought that Dan's experience and deep knowledge would be a real benefit in the role.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else?
I think we're talking a lot of experience.
Yeah, there isn't really much.
If there's any questions you'd like to ask me, feel free as far as I have.
Grade and step,
Nothing to
Andre?
hide.
Grade 6, step 5, which is $23.62 an hour, and it's a 10-hour a week position.
10? Okay.
Yeah, but up to 10, so I know you move it around.
All right. Any last comments, Amanda?
No, I think Dan's the best candidate for the job. Happy to have him here.
Great. Anybody would like to make a motion on that?
I move that we approve Dan Campbell to the Assistant Town Clerk position, grade 6, step 5, up to 10 hours a week.
Let's second that.
A second from Kearns, from Sarah. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing. Welcome back, Sam.
Thank you.
I think
See you guys on Monday.
Thank
yeah,
you
I
for
think
your
we agreed the start
assistance.
date was going to be Monday next
Yes.
week.
Oh, great.
Thank you. We'll see you around.
See you around.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's cool.
Okay.
Yippee.
So, we are early for our 6:15, so I will then move on to citizens' concerns. Are there any citizens' concerns at this time? Any residents of the town that wish to speak? No? Seeing none, then I suppose we will move on. All right. Review and approval of warrants. August 9th, 2023 payroll warrant. Anybody?
I move that we approve the August 9th, 2023 payroll warrant of $85,214.91.
Second.
Second from Bernie. Discussion on that.
I'm just noting that's a little higher than it normally is.
Yeah, I haven't looked through the warrant today, so I couldn't tell you why, but it could be first.
Summer wages
Well, we do have some overtime going
Yeah.
on.
from the highway.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially, I think they've been working a little, like last week, some
The
extra
boys have
hours.
been working,
Well, they've
putting a lot of
certainly-
time in out there.
They've
So,
certainly been here before we got here and actually leaving sometimes with us, so I suspect there's a bit of that going on.
Yeah, gotta get it done. Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
We have a motion on the floor by B. Was there a second?
Yeah,
Okay, Bernie seconded that. Discussion on that? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Vendor warrant.
I move that we approve the 8/9/2023 vendor warrant of $270,708.26. That includes highway department paving, wrap,
Those are the additional winter recovery aid funds. I
right.
think he's finished
Right.
with the use of that for
Okay.
paving.
Yeah. South Mountain Road and Emergency Services Facility.
Second.
Discussion.
I had questions about the emergency services facility bill.
That was the closeout with our, with
Closeout?
the
and then ongoing.
designer.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that was the closeout with the architect.
Landscape
Completely.
services. Yeah. And then, but there's ongoing, isn't there, with the engineers?
There is an ongoing contract with the owner's project manager, but it's as they do things. So it's a smaller contract for a second phase in terms of reviewing additional sites as needed. So,
All right, thank you.
Okay. Fair points to be made. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Review and approval of minutes for the 7/11/2023 executive session.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second from B. Discussion on that?
I see there's an adjustment.
There is.
Which,
No discussion
No discussion, but there
on
is an
executive
adjustment.
session minutes, so that's something that we will
Yeah.
visit back to at a
So
later
we'll-
time.
So we'll,
well, you can vote them as
I
amended.
gave you what the adjustment is. If you guys are fine with that, then we can approve that.
If not, then you have to wait till another session, so.
Okay. Just give me a second to read it. I read it before the meeting, but
yeah, I remember that happening.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
do we need an amendment?
Would somebody like to amend?
Yeah, the vote to approve the 7/11/2023 executive session with the amendment.
Second.
A second on the amendment. Discussion? Can't. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of that. Open session minutes of July 25th, 2023.
I move that we approve the minutes from July 25th, 2023.
Second.
Second, Bernie. Discussion? Any
Yeah.
typos?
I would like to amend the, that we discussed in the future that the town administrator would put an itemized list for her updates so that we can discuss those.
Okay, so where would you like that in the minutes?
I wasn't sure where it should be, whether it was where I think we discussed it
I
around
think it
the
was
town administrator.
proposed. Was it proposed?
Yeah,
And it was executed,
where do you?
and
do
she
you know-
agreed that that was
She'd have to, Sandra will have to find it and add it where it was in the minutes.
Yeah, if you know where you said it.
I think it was under proposed. It was toward the end of the meeting.
Might have been.
All right, well,
Yes,
will-
it was, actually.
we will task Sandra with that.
So I
So-
added to the end of the
Proposed agenda.
The bullets.
bullets there.
Okay.
Shall
Okay.
somebody make a motion for the amendment?
I move that we approve the July 25th, 2023 minutes as amended.
Second.
Second from Bernie. Discussion?
I'm sorry, can I clarify? I apologize.
Sure. Let's have it.
I thought that we discussed that we were going to do it, not that it was going to go on the agenda going forward.
Well, we did it.
And we did it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't need to be on the proposed agenda items?
I think that's where you discussed it.
That's where we
though.
discussed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
if
No, it
we-
won't be a proposed agenda item. It will. You spoke about it in the proposed agenda item.
Great,
Right.
thank you.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
it was also spoke about at that meeting, you couldn't stay
That I
for.
didn't attend,
right.
yeah.
That was
So.
brought up then.
We'll get it in the minutes. It'll be
Yeah.
reflective of
Mhm.
Sarah's comments
Okay.
and wishes. So, okay.
Do we need to
That-
vote?
Takes care of the discussion. We'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Keith, is that an extension?
Yes.
Okay.
Interim select board meetings.
Nope.
Nothing I can think of. Meetings and events attended by select board members. Anybody want to start? Well, I don't like starting those because I always forget my meetings. But I had a screening. I had a screening meeting yesterday for highway candidates. We moved through the first process of the application process for some highway people for the truck driver laborer position. There will be some individuals moving forward in that process. So it was a good meeting. Some good candidates that came, so that was good. Is that it? Did I have anything else? I can't think of anything. If I think of something else, I'll come back to it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also was at the screening of the DPW candidates, and I also had a Friends of the Northfield Seniors meeting.
Cool. Heath?
I didn't have anything.
Yay.
You had a
On
meeting with the sun.
vacation,
You had a
yeah.
meeting with the sun, didn't you? Yeah.
Sun and sand.
So I had screening and final interviews for the assistant clerk position. I attended a planning board meeting, conscom meeting, and also a site visit. Conservation managers, I met with conservation managers regarding the process of converting lands to conservation. The Economic Development Committee meeting. And I met with Joanne McGee regarding open space materials as she's phasing out and handing things over.
Nice.
I mean, she's still in, but she's just
She'll
trying to-
always be
yeah.
in, yeah.
And I attended a 350th lecture on the Rustic Ridge and went to the VFW Friday event.
Full agenda. Look at you.
Busy.
Well done.
Let's see, I had ARPA plus, that's an ARPA / storefront improvement. And then I did follow up on that with Andrea and EMS. I met with Tom Walker just to do a catch up on highway stuff and walked the perimeter with him of the project here. And I went to the organ recital on Sunday for the 350th, which at the First Church. It was lovely. Yeah.
Nice. Bernie? Oh yeah, you said yours. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, if anybody remembers any other meetings they had during the meeting, I don't really think it's a big deal. Sometimes we talk about things that remind us of, oh yeah, we did have a meeting about that, and just feel free to just say like, yeah, I attended that type of meeting, and we'll have that added. I think that's a fair point. Okay, that takes care of that. And looks to me like we are right on time for our 6:15 appointment for Skip Demnell for the fire chief, fire department interim chief, and bylaw discussion. Skip, why don't you come forward?
Look at us being here on time. Good evening.
Good evening. So we have a lot to get to, so I want to get right into it here. So we received, I'll head off this discussion. We received a reply from our town council over what exactly is going to be happening and how the law regarding the weak chief under Mass General Law Chapter 48, Section 42A, which governs the fire department, and how what the future of the department is. So the first order of business I would like to get out of the way before we move on to anything else is who is going to be the chief, because we don't really have much time left here. So I'd like to know what the plan is for
From the
chief.
fire department?
Correct.
Okay. We had what we did is we had a meeting at the fire department. We did what we normally do in November, is we had a nominating committee that formed. The job of the nominating committee is to check with all the members as far as and making nominations for an interim chief. They gave their report back at last Thursday night's monthly meeting, and the unanimous vote was for Michael Quinn. If the select board felt as though an interim chief was needed, that their selection was Michael Quinn, who was willing to take on the position. So the feeling of the department is they question whether there is a need for an interim, because we have our bylaws, and the fire department still operates whether I'm there or Dave Quinn is there or whatever, but the bottom line is that we did go through the nomination, and should the select board feel as though they have to appoint someone in the interim, then that was their selection.
Okay.
I have a question.
Keith?
So, do we have to appoint somebody, or can there be a situation like where if Skip was out of town, you have an OIC, an officer in charge?
I believe they already have that. I believe that's already their practice.
Which is a deputy chief, right?
Deputy chief or the captain or one of the lieutenants. Yeah, we already have that in the process. That's already covered under our bylaws, and that's how we operate.
And what's Mike Quinn's rank?
Mike is the captain.
He's captain, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with going to the assistant chief position is that the assistant chief's an auxiliary, which means he's in the same situation that Skip is in.
Okay.
So,
And he's not interested in serving in the administrative side as far as the chief's position.
Okay.
So, but yes, that operation is covered under our bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
yeah, it's
So-
just a fair point to make that no auxiliary fire personnel may put on gear and run into a burning building.
Right.
It is my understanding that after the age of 65 and also being an auxiliary member, it's a huge insurance liability, and it's not a situation our town needs to be in. So, but we can have what is called an administrative. I just want to get the term right.
Yeah.
Administrative chief. That person can be an auxiliary member, but an administrative chief functions as the administrator of the department, but does not take an active role in the first responding. Is that correct?
In command.
In fire
Yeah.
suppression.
In command, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Oh, so we need to appoint,
Well, it decides how you want to do. I think
Yeah.
it came down to, as Skip has pointed out, multiple options. I mean, you can do an administrative chief, which can be Skip, and then you would do it in such a way that you would have an assistant chief. Presumably your assistant chief would not be an auxiliary, because that would be the person that would be the non-administrative arm, and then obviously on down through the command. But to do that, you really do have to adopt an administrative chief job description, which I did give you a draft, which is essentially the same job description. I just pulled out it's all the administrative stuff, all the fun stuff, right, Skip?
Kellen did that a while ago.
Yeah.
oh, they did?
There's a few in the state.
Yeah,
Okay.
The attorney said it's not terrible. It's
Yeah.
not totally common, but it happens, and it also happens from time to time for
Right.
situations that would allow you to do that. Leave Skip in the administrative role, but you would have to consider doing your assistant chief actually being appointed as Michael Quinn,
And this
because
would be in the interim.
the idea is I think that once the legislation passes, then you revisit everything.
Yeah.
This
So-
is to get through that.
So there is a lot of concern right now over whether the legislation is going to pass your extension. And so what I'm reading here is from Timothy Zessin, who is an attorney from KP Law, who our town works with to determine the legality of how we move forward with these types of things. And we decided to consult our town attorneys just because of the seriousness of the situation. So I'm just going to read this here. In my opinion, the legislator, for several reasons, is unlikely to approve legislation that would allow an individual to serve as a firefighter beyond the age of 70. If the town wishes to appoint an individual who is over the age of 65 but younger than 70 to the chief's position, and you would like the chief to be able to perform all the firefighting duties, I recommend seeking special legislation that would allow the individual to serve until his 70th birthday. So it's a lot to take in. The thing is, the point of the law for extensions is that Boston, I believe, is very well aware of the fact that there is a availability issue when it comes to finding individuals who are qualified and able to correctly run a department and mandate policy and move it forward in consultation with their elected officials. So what I'm getting at here is that we need to think about what the point was for your extension in the last 5 years. And my, I'm just trying to, because the point of the law is to make sure that when you put this forward the first time around for the first 5 years, that there is a fair amount of succession planning that will happen, because trying to file for an additional extension makes the law pointless to exist, because it's just it sets a precedent and a standard that anybody in the state can, into their 70s, can do it, and I think the state is trying to avoid that for liability's sake. So I just want to know, we'll know the answer very soon, but I think it's, we just have to be prepared for the fact that you may not get an extension.
And the one thing you do have to be prepared for is that we did get, and I forwarded it to you as
Yeah.
well. You had it already.
And I already had it, yeah.
Representative Whip's office said that it has been favorably reported out of the joint committee, but
Yeah.
they changed it to 1 year.
Right,
And that if you want successive years, you're going to have to file each year.
Every year.
yeah.
So,
That gives us a year to plan,
Mhm.
If,
and because we kind of dropped the ball on this, in my opinion. It slipped through our fingers, this whole thing, doing this late.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but this gives us if that year gets approved, it gives a year
Right.
to
Put a plan in place.
put
Yeah.
a plan in place.
Yeah, I got this from
Yeah.
Susan Whip's office, that
Yeah.
Chair Gordon reached out, and they're releasing the bill out of committee, and it will be released favorably. They redrafted it for a 1-year extension. He advised that they were starting the operating procedure for this. That was the standard operating procedure for this committee, and said that you could refile for an additional year in 2024, and so on.
may I ask a clarifying
Yeah.
question? As I read this document, the information that we had, the memorandum, it seems to say that if we make an administrative chief, we don't have to worry about whether it passes or not, because he is the administrative chief, which is an auxiliary position, which therefore doesn't, it bypasses having a hole if the legislation doesn't pass.
Right. The problem with administrative chief is it's not really favorable to anybody, and I don't even
Right.
think the fire department
Yeah.
wants it in
Yeah.
perpetuity.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you want to be the chief, you want to do it all, but it does give you an opportunity, especially with Skip's knowledge and experience, to, if they have that year, at least, and certainly, once the bill passes, he can then operate, even with the year, he can operate fully. You
Right.
would take him off until administrative chief, and you'd put him back on regular
Full
chief.
chief.
But it gives him the opportunity to also then begin to think about transitioning.
Yeah, which is the plan.
The plan.
Yeah, yeah.
But it leaves us, my point is, I believe it leaves us without a hole. Whether that passes or not,
Mhm.
if you're the administrative chief, even if it doesn't pass, you're still auxiliary administrative chief, right?
Mhm.
So, and if it does pass, then we
Yeah.
switch things out.
Yeah.
So in the past, the bills are typically, at least on the two bills that I followed, one was your original bill.
Mhm.
The governor doesn't sign until sometime in October.
Mhm.
So if I read the steps correctly, we would need to approve the administrative chief position, appoint Skip to the administrative chief position, appoint Michael Quinn as assistant fire chief,
Interim.
and
Yeah.
as assistant fire chief, because then he
You
would,
can always change it later.
right. And we can cross that bridge if we need to. But I think that simplifies the process, and it respects your hierarchy and the nomination from the fire department. What I would suggest is maybe we do that, make those appointments, and I'm just going to throw this out there, until the bill is passed and signed, or October 31st, whichever is sooner. So then we could then switch when the bill is passed to then putting you back for the remainder of the year as the full chief. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying this out loud because it'll be a series of motions.
Why do we need the October, why don't we just say if it passes? Because if it doesn't pass and it reaches October 31st, we can't switch it anyway because it won't have passed.
You just have to revisit you just have
When
to.
and
revisit-
Then we just revisit
When
it.
and if it passes.
Right, because then we might want to go to interim chief or something
Yeah.
else.
Something
Or,
else that you propose.
or continue in the same vein, depending.
All right,
Can I ask, Mike, are you fine with that?
that's
No,
That's
that's
Taylor.
Taylor.
Oh.
No, Mike's actually up in,
Oh, that's,
he's on
oh,
vacation.
okay.
He's on vacation.
Oh, okay.
Mike is,
All right.
yeah.
So,
But he was fine taking, he was fine taking the position of interim chief if you so desired.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the administrative.
I mean,
I had read that Pelham had done an administrative position because of the same situation back in, I think it was 2022, 2021,
Oh, okay.
2022. I did get some information on that from Mass Call Association, so he's not aware of that, as far as that's concerned, but.
I think it basically is the workaround for how you currently work
Yeah, yeah.
and how we currently work.
Mhm.
The other thing that I was concerned about that I wanted to ask you about is my understanding is as chief, you have delegation of authority from the fire marshal,
Yes.
and we have to notify the fire marshal every year as to who the chief is, and then,
If it changes. If
Right.
and when it changes, yeah.
okay,
The authority is basically for the fire inspections, that type of.
or to search and
issuing
seize,
permits
right,
and-
if you need to.
Pardon?
I said to search and seize if you need to, like commandeer a piece of equipment or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that doesn't
yeah,
happen
yeah,
all
it
that
doesn't
often,
happen, but primarily it's for gives you the authority to issue permits and whatnot on behalf of the Department of Fire Services, the
Yeah,
State Fire Marshal's
yeah.
office.
See, that's what I was concerned
Yeah.
about, is if we didn't
Yeah.
appoint somebody, then we're kind of losing that official authority that comes from the fire marshal. So I think this,
But there again, in my absence, it reverts back to
right,
the ranking officer in charge.
Correct.
He has the same authority in my absence.
as long as you're still
Yeah,
chief,
Mhm.
if your
right.
chiefdom, so to speak,
Yeah.
expires, then you no longer have that authority technically to pass along. That was my concern.
Mhm.
Okay, I think this gets us everything that we need for the time being and gets us on a path of succession over the next year or so.
okay.
Yeah.
So, are we going to make a motion at this time?
Well,
Or are
Well, we
going
need to make
wait?
several.
I think the first thing to do is to decide if you're accepting the two job descriptions.
Yes, so we
Because
need
you
to.
can't make them a
yeah.
job, and it's exactly the same one that you brought
Mhm.
last time. I just literally removed the fire stuff. And you never accepted that one at the last meeting, right?
Okay.
You didn't fully vote that one. So
Whoops.
we should probably accept the two job descriptions, and then you can vote somebody into them.
Okay.
Oh, this is the one we were working on?
Right, the one that
Okay.
you made your comments
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
And so then I took that one and literally just
Yeah.
made that the administrative chief.
Mhm.
I didn't change anything other than the stuff that would have made it non-administrative.
Yeah.
So it's the same description, but otherwise it's, yeah, exactly. the
Okay,
same.
so I'm just going to revise the list. So we need to approve the administrative chief position.
Yep,
We need to approve the fire chief position.
yes.
We need to appoint Skip as the administrative chief. We need to appoint Michael Quinn as the assistant fire chief. I think that's it.
Do we need to switch
Yeah, I think you
him to
should.
auxiliary?
Yes, I think you should do that
Oh,
before you appoint him
Yeah, that's
administrative
another one.
chief. Starting on and make it the day,
Yeah.
right, you
13th.
don't change
The
it till after.
13th? The 14th or the 13th?
I'll do it on the 13th,
Turn-
probably.
okay, so
And
it's-
then he becomes auxiliary on the 13th, and then he becomes administrative chief at the same time.
So
All right,
1,
let's-
2,
this-
3, 4, 5.
Thank you for
Looks
doing
like
that, Dee.
6.
Okay, so we're gonna take this one at a time here.
Okay.
So, let's first start out with a motion for the administrative fire chief job description.
I move that we approve the administrative fire chief position.
Second.
Second from Heath. Discussion on this. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Administrative fire chief job description has been approved.
What would you like next, Mr. Chair?
We'll do the fire chief job description.
Okay. I move that we approve the fire chief position.
Second.
Second from Sarah. Discussion on the approval of this, on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that we have a new fire chief job description approved.
Okay, now we need to appoint Skip as auxiliary.
Okay, motion for,
I move that we appoint Skip to the auxiliary do we do it
Do him as
separately?
an auxiliary officer starting on.
Okay.
for the sake, Sarah, just for the sake of formality, if we could just use Skip's full name for the
Oh, right.
motion.
Floyd Dennell.
As my
Floyd.
Actually,
M.
I had
Donnell.
somebody
the
ask
third,
me,
right?
somebody said, who's Floyd Donnell? I
Yeah.
said, it's Skip.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try again. I move that we appoint Floyd M. Donnell as the auxiliary
Is it the
As
third?
an auxiliary officer.
and auxiliary officer of the Northfield Fire Department starting the 13th of August.
You are the third, right?
2023.
Yeah.
Are
He
you
is
the third?
I am the third,
Floyd M. Donnell the third.
yes.
Second.
Second from B. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Chief Floyd Donnell is now the auxiliary
The
chief.
13th.
Administrative.
No, you got to vote him the
We haven't done
administrative chief.
administrative yet.
Yeah.
Next motion.
Step by step.
Step by step.
Inch by inch. I move that we appoint, Floyd M. Donnell III as the administrative fire chief starting
13.
the 13th of August 2023.
Second.
Second from Heath. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, now, I move that we appoint Michael Quinn as Assistant Fire Chief as of August 13th, 2023.
Second.
Discussion. We're all set. This is what we need?
Yeah, I just would need to bring this back to the department because Dave is the assistant, was the assistant chief, was appointed as the assistant chief, so.
Okay.
But he's auxiliary, right? So he
Yeah,
can't.
we can't use him as the
The command.
command
Yeah.
chief, yeah.
And that
Okay.
way we do have someone on, when you guys go to a
Right.
fire, someone
Right.
that can put on the equipment and do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you can just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Which you, yeah.
Which means if you want to bring it back, like maybe you're going to reappoint him to something else, you just
Mhm.
bring it back and they can do that at their next meeting.
Yeah.
Do we need an auxiliary?
Well, no, they might,
Assistant administrator. Oh, he doesn't want to do administrative. Never mind.
No.
Okay.
He's not interested in doing.
Okay, right.
Doing,
Okay,
you
never
make
mind.
him the captain.
Forget I said
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
You guys have to figure it
They
out.
could just, yeah, I'll bring it back to the department. They could just, in all honesty, just.
Switch them.
Yeah. So.
So we have a motion and a second, I think, right?
So
Mm-hmm.
we had a second, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We're still in discussion.
Yep.
We're all set. We'll take a vote. All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so starting the 13th, Michael Quinn will be the
Assistant fire chief.
assistant fire chief. Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm looking at my list, I think.
We did have on here
We haven't done the administrative.
bylaws.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah. Oh, we
next.
did.
So I'm going to get to that now. Okay, so this is another part of the discussion that we need to have.
Okay.
So let me just get my notes here. So I'm just going to first refer to the chapter and section that I did earlier, which governs the Northfield Fire Department, which is Chapter 48, Section 42A. This is directly from the Massachusetts legislator.gov website, where all of the Mass General laws are listed. In towns which accept this section or have accepted corresponding provisions of earlier laws, there shall be a fire department established under the direction of the selectmen, who shall appoint a chief of the fire department and such other officers and firemen as they deem necessary. and fix their compensation in an amount not in the aggregate exceeding the annual appropriation therefore. The selectmen may make suitable regulations governing the fire department and the officers and firemen thereof, and in towns which are not subject to Chapter 31 may remove the chief and other officers and firemen at pleasure. The chief of the fire department shall be in the immediate control of all town property used by the department and of the officers and firemen who shall obey his orders. So, as I said earlier, that this is a weak chief law, which means there is the ultimate will and pleasure authority to the Board of Selectmen, old-fashioned term, select board now. So, your bylaw book. This goes to your bylaw book, and the opinion from our attorney on the bylaw book, that the bylaw book has no legal binding on policy in the town. It can be considered a policy book, but the binding power that it is bylaws to what we have done has never been approved by anything from the town's perspective. So we as a select board have never, in the history of Northfield, have never approved these bylaws. They operate on their own bylaws or own policies, but we at no point in time have ever approved anything for any rule or regulation for the fire department, which means, given the fact that they are a weak chief department that ultimately answers to the select board, we need to take the bylaw book that the fire department has and have it sent to council to determine its legality, and then sent to the board to avoid liability and getting sued to approve it. So I know that's kind of a big hit here, but it is the law. This is something we spent considerable time and money on with the town attorney to get an opinion on this, and that's where we are at this time. So,
the and I obviously wasn't around, but the bylaws were not adopted by the town in 1942.
I've read from 40 to 45.
Okay.
No reference.
So
It would be very unusual. The attorney
Yeah.
says it probably just they evolved. And they became the functioning of the
Yeah.
department, and,
Right.
and much of it is how you want the department to function. But
Right.
like the police, like the EMS, like any department, their
Like highway.
policies,
Yeah.
Bylaws have to be adopted, and they have to be reviewed by
Yeah.
the Attorney General's office.
So we have a bylaw, a town
Policies have
bylaw.
to
They're
be
po-
adopted.
No, bylaws have to be adopted by town meeting and sent to
Oh,
the Attorney
right,
General's
right.
office. Policies are adopted by the
Yeah,
select board.
so we have a town bylaw,
Personnel bylaw.
personnel
we have
bylaw
a
book.
personnel policy.
So there can't be two separate bylaws.
Policies.
So
Policies.
eventually we would like this book to be incorporated in our town bylaws following
No,
this
stop. It's a personnel policy,
Right,
and they can have their own policies. Departments can have their own policies.
but they can't have separate bylaws is what I'm saying.
Well, no, not unless you took them to town meeting, which would be very problematic because you don't have a strong chief, so it
Right.
would get very difficult. But
So we can incorporate that into our,
no, you would not. You would let them have their policies, and you would keep your personnel policies. They, as town employees, are subject to your personnel policies and your own policies that you draft.
Yeah.
But those policies have to be reviewed and accepted by the select board. And then they can operate under whatever policies, they set forth. If they want to change them, just like the police chief is brought to you, they bring changes and the select board actually accepts the changes, but they're just
Okay.
policies.
so what would from their bylaw book go into the town bylaws? Anything?
There's no town bylaws for it. Our
Okay.
town
Basically, they would
bylaws are
create a
zoning
separate-
bylaws.
They
Thank
would
you for that.
create a policies and procedures book for the fire department.
would
Rather
start
than
with
going in
what
a
they have.
bylaw book, it would be a policies and
It would become
procedures book
policies.
Yeah.
that they would make pretty much based off of the entirety of the
But there
bylaw
would-
book. It would,
Most
like,
of
just like the police department has their procedures on
Yeah.
prisoner
You start
transport,
with
use of
theirs.
force, like everything that's in
Body
their book. I
cameras,
got a
yeah.
copy of it when we were there
Yeah.
and looked through it a few times, and it was just all of it's pretty standardized, pretty well put together, policy driven type of stuff. So
And
it
most
just
of it would
it's a be a
remain.
play on words. It's going to just be language
But there
changes.
does
and-
have to be some changes, like
Yeah. So
you
this
can't
is going-
adopt your
this is
own
going
policies.
The town legal?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just make sure that everything, some of them are probably older, I know you guys update them, but they'll make sure they're consistent with master law, they'll make sure they're
Yeah, right.
consistent with town policies. And then changes in policy, you can still keep your procedure on how to do them, but then they still have to, then it has to be added, they have to come to the select board
Yep.
for approval, just like the other chiefs do. It's not generally a
Yeah, that makes more
huge
sense, because
deal.
then you would update your policies at a select board meeting, not at an annual town meeting.
Mhm.
You wouldn't want to wait a whole year to
So they can
update,
still
yeah.
review and do
Right.
your own
Right.
recommended change. You would just then bring them to the select board for review and approval. And then, just to make it clear, we do have to make it clear that the firefighters are town employees. They're
Correct.
all town employees. And I think just the nature of longevity and how the department has run without needing anything much, we do have to do personnel files now, which have
Right.
only been established as needed. And
Yeah.
I think the last few guys you brought in to be assigned, you actually filled out
Mhm.
filled out the whole application. I'm going to send
Right.
you a screen. I just shrunk one down for future use, just
Oh,
for the
okay.
fire department. So you're not filling. We don't need their last 4 jobs and everything.
Right. No.
So condense that down so that when we start, we have something with their name and their phone number and how to reach them, and to be able to put that in a file. The other thing that poor Sandra has spent 2 days doing is copying 30 copies of the town's personnel policy.
Okay.
So we have those to give you, and then every firefighter has to sign the sheet
That
that
they
comes out
receive.
and return. And then we can put that in their file, and then those are theirs to keep. And that way we get through the whole,
Mhm.
everybody's got a personnel file, everybody's on board. And as we move forward, you just have them fill out. You don't have to go back and have
Right.
everybody fill out
Sure.
fill out an application again. It doesn't. But, and then the select board can review policies, and we'll give them back to you guys once the lawyer has looked at them.
Yeah.
And everybody then you can work together to establish those and get them approved.
Yeah.
But we'll start with
Okay.
yours, I think, for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
There's not going to be, there's no need to start from the ground.
Mhm.
Yeah, just as I said before, and thank you for correcting me on that. I just want to make sure that we're following the law here.
Oh, yeah.
So this was kind of like a surprise to me, honestly, because having read the bylaw book many times over the past couple of years, fire department does their own thing. They operationally and going to calls and stuff function very well in comparison to other municipalities in our area. So it was never like something that was, oh, this is something we have to do. But just given the fact that we've spent so much time over interpreting the law and interpreting where you stand and stuff like that, that it's been a very good project to take on for us, so that we can make sure we're all following the rules here. So I suppose at this point we'll just.
Oh, just a note. I did go through the bylaws that you
Yeah.
handed out last time. Just my comment was that I thought there was a lot of very good, clear expectation setting
Yes.
in the bylaws, and very succinctly written, which is always good for policies. And I thought a lot of it would translate really well into policy and procedure, as well as I think you've got some other policies in there that are useful, like in terms of social media, conduct on social media, for example, that
Yes,
nobody else has
that's
really tackled.
Very important.
Right, as well as as well as participation. So I think this is a win-win. I think we all get up, the whole town and the select board, we all get up to date on how things are supposed to work with policies versus bylaws. And then nothing, I think, to Alex's and everyone else's points in the prior meetings is there's nothing broken. We're just taking what has been done and translating it into the appropriate mechanisms that any other department would do. So I think this was a really good exercise.
Yes, the bylaws are, it pretty well lists out what the responsibilities are of everybody right down to member.
Yeah.
And what the requirements are for a member, and as a member, what their duties are and expectations are. There's no gray areas there at all. And they have to make a certain amount of meetings, they have to make a certain amount of trainings, their attendance on all of that, as well as fire calls, is tracked, and the standing committee that's also part of that is they review that on an annual basis, and if anybody is slipping behind without
Yeah.
due cause, then it's addressed. So, but it keeps the organization fulfilled. I mean, we have a good department of men and women. So it's and they do, like I said last time we met, they do a phenomenal job. And it's not
Yep.
it's not me. It's not just me.
Right.
You know. So.
So eventually,
But it's also not accidental.
Oh no, that's true. That's true.
So Andrea, can we anticipate in the next couple of weeks that the bylaws, the fire department bylaws, will be sent to council?
I'll send them tomorrow.
Okay.
And then he knows, because he wrote the one memo, he knows that this is coming his way.
And
So
we can
he's,
eventually incorporate that into our town.
Maybe
right, it'll
change,
be a policy.
maybe
It'll become
change the
policies
name to fire department policies
and procedures.
instead of bylaws. Let's
Yeah.
get rid of that
Yeah,
bylaw.
it's
because-
just confusing. The bylaw word
Yeah.
keeps confusing.
Yeah,
Well,
the bylaw
bylaw
would have
actually-
to go to a town meeting.
It actually has a
Let's
legal
just change that
meaning.
word to policy and keep it all the same and,
Yeah, there'll be fire department policies and procedures.
Okay, so I believe that wraps up what we needed to discuss. I think it was a very good discussion. We covered the definition of Chapter 48, Section 42A, which is the weak chief. We covered the succession planning of the department, and I think we have a plan here. Do you think so, Skip?
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds workable.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Good.
So.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Coming up soon. And just so you know, Floyd Sr., Floyd Jr., and Floyd III were never known as Floyd.
Never know.
Were you all Skips?
No.
Oh.
My grandfather was Myron, the middle name.
Okay.
My dad was Junie, as Junior, and I'm known as Skip, and that, I don't know if that had to do with my school attendance or not.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Good.
We cleared that up.
Yes. So,
Can I add one thing?
Caleb, yeah, all out. Yeah, please.
When
He needs to state his
Yeah.
name.
Just state your name for the record.
Caleb Milton. So when it goes to town council, can we just get a list of annotations if anything changes?
Oh, you'll come back to you.
Oh, no, I know it's like as a new copy. I just want a list of anything that's changed, just to make sure that we know exactly what.
I'll ask him to do a markup version.
Yeah, exactly.
No problem.
That's all.
good.
Cool.
Yep.
Yep.
That way, no one has to sit there and go through the same bylaws or same
Yeah.
procedures
Right.
just to find the little ones that got changed.
Oh, no,
We'll have the
that's,
exact
I've had to
ones.
do it. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So, no, he'll send a markup.
Awesome. That's all.
Caleb is one of our firefighters. But
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Great. Thank you.
All right,
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Awesome.
Okay, that takes care of that scheduled appointment. Just get my notes in order here.
No, we're in good shape.
We are now moving on to town administrators update and the bullet points associated with that.
Grants. The first one is, just wanted to let you know that Mallory just submitted the grant for a new and additional police body cameras for $7,700. So that grant went in, a week ago, just a few days ago. So that's in. Fire protective gear. That grant was submitted earlier this spring. We got asked some questions and we had to update our SAMs, that's the federal number, because they were asking about that. So we took that as a very positive sign, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Our application's for $120,000 for new gear for the fire department that they wanted and needed. So those are all being sent out in the next few weeks, so we're expecting to hear back on that any day, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. The Shell Bridge, the federal we've just scheduled a meeting I have a meeting with MassDOT tomorrow with Mallory to talk about what we had done, and then the federal debrief with the feds next week to go over we always go for their input. We always do the debrief to get what they have to say if we don't get a particular grant. On the up note on that is that there is another grant that Mallory has found which we actually think is probably more on point with what we're looking to do. It's more recreation based, and it's reconnecting communities and neighborhoods.
Ooh.
So that's one of the things they're going to discuss tomorrow, is make sure that MassDOT is aware that we're going to, much of what we've already done in the last grant in terms of the technical will be reusable, including the cost benefit analysis. I'm going to start to question them on a rebid of bidding this project. It's very expensive, and I know it's understandable, but the bid is now multi-years old. And part of my wonder is the cost is high because of the COVID cost of construction, because it was done just around that. So we want to talk to MassDOT about the reality of thinking about at what point would we rebid this project as we're going into 2+ years on the bid, using it as our estimate, but ultimately it becomes bad numbers. You know, we need to think about that. So I'll probably be asking that tomorrow. So we're going to do a debrief on the old one and start looking at the new one. We're not giving up easy.
So the theme for the 350th has been reconnection.
Well, this is,
and we saw that as
communities and
reconnecting
neighborhood.
both sides of Northfield. That's awesome.
So maybe we can carry that into next year, and if we can keep at it to get the grant. The Municipal American, I'm sorry, it should be American with Disabilities Act. That's my typo on mine, not yours. We're looking at this idea for this grant. It's due in September. We had done an ADA study a couple of years back with a transition plan. So we're picking some things out of that. Our primary look right now is at the bathrooms downstairs. There were some questions about ADA compliance, and the bathrooms are in kind of rough shape anyway. So
They're not too good.
well, the men's room is in better shape than the women's room. The women's room has a leak in the corner, and we catch it in a bucket. So we need to do some work in that bathroom. But also there's some questions about the turnaround room and the handicap stall. So that all needs to be, we have that all assessed when we did the ADA grant assessment work. So that's one of the pieces that we'll be potentially looking at for the ADA grant, is to maybe get some work in that, upgrading those bathrooms. They're not uncompliant, they just should be in newer compliance.
It just feels like you're walking into the 80s when you go in them.
Yeah, and the bathrooms need to have new compliance. The standards are
They seem
changing.
even older than that.
So we'd like to update
More like
them.
the 50s or something. I don't know.
And although it's not on here, I'm just going to give you a quick update. We got our Complete Streets grant. Sidewalks in Highland Avenue, $127,380. It's step one on the sidewalks in Highland. We're keeping our fingers crossed on the Mass Works, which would be the culvert, and then the remaining piece of sidewalk.
That's what's up.
But we got the first part of the sidewalk.
And that doesn't cost the town a nickel.
$127,380 from the
Nice.
Complete Streets grant.
Very good.
So
Ooh,
that's just got that in yesterday. So.
excellent.
And then the last community compact projects, the regionalization, Mark and I met with the consultants, and he had to send them some more. We're doing the capital piece right now is what we're doing. The rest of it is pretty much done. So Mark now has seen it. He's reviewing some of the data. And once we get the capital piece in there, they're going to send a full, pretty serious draft, like a final draft. The grant closes by September 15th, so it has to be done anyway. So hopefully we'll have it in the next few weeks, like, and an actual real final draft form.
Can you give more information about what that is? Because I think I've had questions about it. And
Sure. We went after a community compact efficiency and regionalization grant, and it's literally to look at the fire department, and we tasked them with very general, like give us a couple different models on how it would act regionally as its own region, staying in the town and operating the way it's operating.
The fire department?
No, this is EMS.
Oh, okay, you said fire department.
I'm sorry, I meant EMS. And staying in town and operating the way it is. It isn't just like, oh, show us what we'd look like if we were regional. And then there's different models for regional. Some are completely separate districts, and all the way down to staying in town, but still doing what we're doing and operating in a regional manner. So they're trying to do multi-scenarios of how would that cost funding go out. And then there's many ways to do that. Do you do it based on population? Do you do it on EQV, which is the value and wealth of a town? Do you do it partially on both? So there's lots of different formulas. So they did a very deep dive into the real cost of the department, staffing, future staffing, size to staffing. They did a lot of that work. They also looked at his budget, how's that grown, how is it growing, looking at the amount of calls and going forward, collecting, what's our collection rates, what do they get from different people, from their insurance, from Medicaid, from the government. So they have to evaluate all that, and now they're wrapping it up with capital costs. What are the capital costs? Ambulances, cardiac monitors, the power cots. Those are the things that over time you have to keep replacing, the big capital pieces. What would that look like in part of a regional model? If you did it as assessments. Well, I mean, we've been doing it. We were lucky enough to do some of that with the CARES Act money over COVID. We bought the new power cot and the new cardiac monitor for the second one, and that was, $45,000. But they're new now. But anyway, so that's what the piece they're putting together, and then they have to try and show us a couple different models.
So to clarify, right now they're gathering information to apply for a grant.
No, they are the grant.
They
grant
are
is
the
the
grant.
work they're
Okay.
doing, and
Great.
they're going to come to us with a report. And that's what we've been reviewing with them,
Got
Mark
it.
and I, to make
Thank
sure
you.
that
That was
they're
the
getting the right information from him, asking questions. I've been sort of the person here liaisoning with the money people and answering logistics questions on the ground and how things operate through town hall, and he's obviously the operator through the
Okay.
ambulance department, EMS department. So hopefully they're getting that. There's a lot of data collection because they were looking at runs for several years back. Then they had to look at how each town that came in affected the data runs, affected the financial piece, and
Okay.
going forward. So
Thanks
yeah.
for the
So
information.
it's a pretty broad study, and I've seen a lot of the written narrative now. They've been starting the introduction and all that. Now we're finalizing the last pieces and putting it together.
So when they get to the end of the process, so they've done other grants for us, and when they've gotten to the end of a process, then they come in and do a presentation to the select board.
Yeah, we can add, they've hinted at that. We're going to do a presentation once we
I know we're
It doesn't have
almost
to be
there,
just the
but
select board. You can do it as a public meeting. You could do it as a select board meeting. When we get there, they'll approach us and say, how do you want to handle it?
okay.
We've sort of had a slight talk on that, on timing, but it'll come back.
All right.
Cool.
All set for update?
It's me.
Awesome.
About the town hall parking.
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Forgot. You can see what's going on in the town hall parking lot. The paving plan was supposed to be Thursday. We think it's going to be Friday now. So the hope is that it'll certainly be paved by Friday, which means it probably won't be striped by Friday, but hopefully then the following week we'll get the painting in. But hopefully Friday, fingers crossed, is paving day, and that would at least allow us to open things up.
And so that means that once it's paved, like when they pave the road, people can park in there and.
Yes. Once
Okay.
they've paved it, I don't know how long it has to sit. I'm sure that Tom will be aware, and then he'll remove the barricades, and they'll be able to park in there. again.
Securing point. Yeah.
We are going to change, so you'll notice the new parking spaces along the side here. It's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 parking spaces now along the side. The thought was, and he actually pushed everything back to square it up, so it's going to be a little bit more room for everybody, because we've had some times where it's pretty packed back there, actually. Sometimes I've come back in the middle of the day if a senior event is going on and I'm parking in the back row. It can be pretty much parked up. So we wanted to avoid parking the police cruisers where they were. We wanted to avoid the salt getting on that pad again and breaking up the cement pad. So the idea is to, I think, designate those town hall employee spots from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And then there's going to be 2 handicap spots. We're not going to park next to the door anymore. We'll designate 2 spots, or we'll make 2, and then 3 spots for the police vehicles, permanent police vehicle parking, so that they're close, so they don't come back in the middle of the day and they're parking out in the middle of the lot. They'll have 3 spots because they are in and out with 2 or 3 vehicles all the time. And then they'll be able to quickly get to that. Having said that, and I haven't talked to John yet, the police chief, if we put those spots there, right now that's a self-closing only exit door on the side. I've given some thought, and I want to talk to John. Does it make sense to turn that into an entrance door? Put a handle on it, put a fob on it, and make that door an entry in and out, because there'll be parking there. The officers could go in and out pretty quickly and not go by the senior center. But I don't know if he wants to consider that. Does have one set of stairs.
All right.
So that's that. So we're working on our parking piece. But other than that, yes, everything should be done, hopefully Friday, paved.
And I think the Tree 50th is going to put trees around too.
We're going to do a couple things. We're planning at least a couple more trees over there. The other thing we're going to do is in front of behind the fountain and the Vets Memorial, put in like a green
semicircle
hedge to kind of make them more of a memorial and less just open, make them kind of a little space of their own, little space. So that's the plan on those as well.
Can we put the lighting in for the flagpole? They've been really wanting
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, we're in touch with them.
Okay.
I've already given. Supposedly they're actually buying the stuff. So I'm hoping that that's coming along quickly. I have been in touch, and Tom knows about it. So that
was, I actually walked around with Tom, so that's part of he was sussing out what the work was, and they're going to hook up the electricity.
Right. This pole here, I think, is getting moved. Or at least I thought they were changing the lights.
They're going to hook up the lighting sensor to the electrical panel on the shed, so it's no longer connected to the older wiring in the Boy Scout building.
Right.
And then they're going to run a new set of wires through the conduit, and they already have their material list that they got from the tech school, because originally the tech school was going to do all the work, and then the tech school had to back out of it.
We also are running a conduit this way over the parking lot, just wiring. We're not putting anything up yet. Potentially to put some lighting on this side if you go out in the dark at night. It's very dark, but we would only want to do like decorative, like street lighting. We're not talking, overhanging, and something that would go on and then go off by a certain time at night, and would only be. We don't want to disturb the backyards of the neighbors, but there's been some talk that it's very dark back there when we go out at night, and it's stumbling around. But that's a future project, the actual lighting itself. But he figured if we're ever going to do it, let's run the conduit now, because we don't want to dig up the parking lot to do it.
Yeah.
So that is a potential discussion in the future as well.
Okay. All right. Very good work.
And then just FYI, I detailed all those out and I sent it to Bob Henry and Denny Brennan.
Yeah.
So
and I have some emails
and then
as well.
Scott was not Scott. Then Tom was going to be in touch with. I think they were going to have Ray Zukowski do some stuff. So just
yeah. I have some emails that have gone back and forth.
Okay, good.
So, and you can skip the first one under business. I put it there in case you got.
I
I just wanted it to be on business so you could take the vote.
Okay, good.
Yep. So we'll move on to our official first order of business: clinical and support options to provide co-response clinical professional services agreement. This is an agreement that we've been looking at
I think it's in the red
anticipation
folder.
for a while now.
I think it's in the folder.
Continue our services with the clinician.
Yep. That's the
Signed.
official one.
Copy.
So we've gone over this before for.
It's the same services.
while
It's
now.
just the new fiscal year contract.
Yep.
Yep.
Just since we're on the topic of it, I'll just add that the complexities regarding law enforcement and the ever need of mental health help for people these days is growing immensely. I can speak to that because of the field that I'm in. I know Heath can because of the field he was in at one point. And it's only getting harder. It's not getting any easier. We're seeing an exponential amount of issues, more now than ever, because of the drug crisis that our area is in. And
The country.
in our country, yeah. So having, as I've said this before, a police officer now needs to be, we have a clinician, but a police officer needs to be a social worker, they have to be a psychologist, an on-crisis counselor, a first responder, a medical technician in some ways, a protector, a server, and a law enforcer, and all the things that are associated with those. And it's not the way it used to be. It's not getting any easier. So being able to appoint and sign into a service like this with a clinical expert that has the correct schooling and experience to deal with people in their not so great times is a profound effort in moving law enforcement, first response, and towns forward. So really glad to see this type of stuff happening because, this field gets bad enough rep as it is. So professionalizing it and making it
Is that the effective date?
making it better is just what we need to do. So.
Well, so we get to continue with Leanne doing the ride-along with,
Yes.
with the police officers, which
Yeah.
we've seen the impact.
So.
Okay, do you want a motion?
Yeah, I'd like a motion on it.
Okay, I move that we approve the agreement between the Town of Irving and Clinical and Support Options, Inc. to provide co-response clinical professional services. The effective date is July 1st, 2023.
Second.
Second from Bernie. Any more discussion on that? No? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing. Great. Glad
There
to
you
see
go.
this moving forward. Thank
Me
you.
too.
Does this need a chair signature?
Yep, just you. Well, I think it just further underscores prior discussion on community policing. That
Exactly.
we're going to continue to move forward.
Community policing is a
We're actually doing it. instead
yeah,
of
we're
just
actually doing
talking
it.
about-
It's not like a law or anything like that. It's up to the discretion of the department and your community to determine how community policing should be enacted. And so everybody has a different idea of what that should be for their own municipality, anywhere in the country or the world. So just glad to see that being another form of community policing that we're using. Select Board planning session date. We have to choose a date. We're looking at either the 14th or the 26th.
I think you were leaning toward the 26th.
Yeah.
Is this September or October?
This is
I mean,
September.
oh, it's September, not August.
No,
No, September. I
Oh.
didn't say the month.
I thought it was August. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think we had time to get it in. I wanted to set this
Oh,
while
right,
Heath
yeah.
was here so that, you know,
Yeah.
because I know that he's got various, that's a non-select board meeting Tuesday, so it keeps it on a Tuesday if we do that one.
Either of those work for me.
What
But
did I tell you originally, Andrea?
the 14th is a Thursday, the 26th is a Tuesday. I had noted the 26th,
Yeah,
so
I
that
think
must
the
have been
20
the date that I thought people
Yeah.
wanted. But just to note, you've received an invitation to an event at Cameron's Winery, the Chamber of Commerce, for the 14th. So I didn't know if anybody wanted to attend that. That would
Oh.
also give you a conflict on the 14th. So
Before or after priority
Priorities.
setting?
you might want to go there after the meeting. You never know. But we just got that
What
today.
time is that?
It should be. Didn't you put it in one of the?
Sitting right here.
Oh, oops.
I think she has them for you all to take one, so you can have your invitation. I just wanted you to know that because if you pick the 14th, it will conflict. And
I'm open on both of those, but the 26th is better for me.
26th is better for me as well.
Okay.
so that's fine. And I just wanted to discuss things to get in preparation. I know we talked about discussing the board and committee code of conduct if you wanted to do it at that meeting or you want to do that separately. Obviously going to review the goals from 2023 and you're going to set goals for 2024. I've also asked the attorney, Jeff Blake, to be here. He's going to do
My
like a
guy.
half an hour open meeting while we shorten the
Oh,
program
cool.
down
My
to
guy.
a few slides because only B and you had to be late yourself.
Bernie, yeah, because I had
Bernie
another
were able
meeting.
to attend that, so he said he could do it. If we do it on the 26th, he does have another thing earlier in the day, but he could be here a little bit later. The last time you did this, you actually met a little earlier, broke for dinner, and then went back. So I don't know how you want to set this up, because it can be a pretty long meeting, but breaking it up was, the way to go about that, or whether you want to try and meet and slide. It's really up to you guys.
Don't really. Doesn't matter to me, really.
I'm flexible.
Yeah.
I don't know, you have, coming from work, you want to set a time?
Do you want to do it at 6 or start earlier?
And have
Well,
dinner, or?
Yeah.
5?
Earlier would be better for me.
Earlier's fine with
And we're
me.
talking about the 26th?
Yes.
Yeah. Earlier would definitely be better. Well, actually, just hold on a second, because working 11 to 7, my first day off. Yeah, anytime early on the 26th is fine. So I don't have to
So
work.
I don't know. Bernie, you don't know yet, probably, right?
No, I'll have to look at my calendar at work when I go in tomorrow.
So, yeah, get back to me and just
Yeah.
make sure. It's really important that everyone's there, so we want to
Yeah.
make sure that there's a date when so that, you know, in time. So when you say earlier, do you mean 4? Do you mean 5? What do you?
Anything after 3.
Oh.
Good.
So could people, if you're free, you could start at 4. Then you guys could
Break for
do
lunch.
an hour and a half, break for dinner at like 5:30 for a half an hour.
Yeah,
Jeff could do his thing at like 6 if he comes.
as long as Jeff joins us for dinner.
Well, I'll offer it.
Okay.
And then, you know, and then hopefully finish up, because it can be a long meeting, but if you give a break in the middle and different topics, you can at least get through it.
We can
So
chunk it up.
we're going to do the review of goals, the goal setting, the open meeting law. Do you want to save the board? Do you want to do the board and committee code of conduct piece, that update at that time as well? You can break these into like half-hour increments, or is that too short?
Let's try it, and if we run out of time, we would have to do it maybe at a select board meeting, like finish it at a select board meeting.
So you could put it towards the end.
So we could at least get started on it and then kind of leave it flexible just in case
Because
we
you
do
really do
run out
have
of
to
time.
update the one you have, because it's not
Yeah.
compliant
It's
anymore
not,
with
it's
new.
not like we do these meetings all the time, so
No.
I think I would just build in a little bit of flexibility.
Okay, so let's say 4. I'll work on 5:30 for dinner. I'll tell Jeff to come at 6, or his presentation will be at 6 o'clock. Break it up a little bit. We'll use his PowerPoint. We shortened it from 50 slides to like much, much fewer. And then he can do a quick targeted presentation.
Great.
And then, you know, if we're lucky, maybe that's the end. If not, you have a half an hour to wrap things up after his and be done. Okay, I'll put
Cool.
that together.
Thumbs up. Thank you for that. And we can do the Chamber of Commerce event on the 14th.
Then you can go have to the winery.
And beer.
Yes, they do beer now. Okay.
All right, so good.
Yay.
ARPA approval. So we
Ooh,
have
yay.
some ARPA approvals for some money that needs to be spent.
Yes.
As I always remind people, this doesn't cost the town anything when it's ARPA money. Let's just get that out of the way right now. So this is for police firearms, storefront improvement project, and premium pay correction. So I see here that there is a recommendation from the ARPA advisory committee for the police department for new handguns and a new rifle for the cruiser and the officer. It's a standardization of reliable firearms. All officers should be equipped with the same firearms and with the same setup on firearms to make everything consistent and interchangeable. We have observed repeated officer safety issues during firearms range with current firearms not firing, misfiring, armor and noted cracking on the frames of the SIGs. That means they have got to go. So the intention is to trade our current handguns, the 6 hours, for the new Glocks. The trade-in value for the SIGs is currently high and dramatically reduces the overall cost for the new firearms. The quotes obtained totaling $6,614.85. We can see the attached trade-in quotes if you wanted to see them. And those are just the trade-in numbers. So I'm a Glock man. I always liked Glock handguns. They're very reliable. They've been around since the 80s. It's a very efficient and tactical design. Probably one of the most well-used pistols in law enforcement today. Looks like they're going with 9mm high capacity. So yeah, standard law enforcement handgun, Gen 4 Glock. Just in case any of you wanted to know what any of the other stuff are, the Magpul M-Lock 4Ns are just some accessories that are going to be used for the AR-15 and for other, just a 2-point sling for the AR, and just different stuff that will just make an officer's job easier and more reliable. So
So I can just add a couple of comments from the committee meeting.
sure, yes.
One was one of our members, Tori Lookshaw, is very familiar with firearms, so she was very excited about this
Me too,
proposal. And this really is a step forward into like how things, to your point, this is how the kind of equipment that police departments are currently using, so this gets us up to speed. The second thing is, I think in my 3+ years on the select board, and you and Heath have been on longer, we've never had this expense come across.
Never.
And one of Dan Campbell, who's the chair of the finance committee, is also on the ARPA committee, and he doesn't remember, and Andrea doesn't remember in her 4.5 years, the town actually replacing any of the
Any
firearms. So the recommendation coming from Dan was, so we're all in favor of it, was that we get this into some sort of capital plan going forward so that we always keep these up to date in the future. Those were the two comments coming from the committee.
And the guns they're using now are, they're like 15 years old.
They're pretty old.
You don't know, but they're certainly
I don't
probably
know.
more than, I don't know, Sandra, do you recall them buying guns at any point?
Never, and
Okay.
I'm going on 18 years, so.
Yeah,
Ooh, okay.
yeah, because
So
I
it's
talked
time.
with one of the officers, and he said he estimated it was about 15 years old.
Yeah.
And it's SIGs that they have.
Yeah.
So they went through a huge conversion of something into SIGs because the state police had them. They wanted to be able to interchange stuff. That was like the end of the 90s, early 2000s. So that huge SIG push was like a bunch of other towns did the same thing.
Okay.
So I would
she's
guess
thinking 18 to
you're
20.
looking at 20, 25 years.
So we're
probably.
overdue.
So, yeah, way
Okay.
overdue.
Okay.
Considering how many rounds have probably been put through those weapons in practice and stuff, yeah.
So, great. Good to see some equipment making our officers safer for the unfortunate circumstances that may occur with
Yeah.
the job.
So I would make a motion that we approve the request for police firearms in the amount of $7,000 from ARPA funds.
Second.
Second from Bernie. Further discussion? Much needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right, so he has to sign that.
Okey doke. Poor Boo. Okay, that's that.
Storefront improvement project. We have a renovation grant program application.
We were very excited about this one.
Yes.
This is actually one of the ones that I think Mallory did some reach out on this
yeah, she
based on all the
definitely did
other
some.
things that we were doing. And we were really excited because these were some of the things that we had thought of, and the business owner is very interested in doing all of them. It involves painting, the windows.
New signs.
If you're familiar, it's the gray building right here on the
With the
corner.
sagging roof.
Zosie's Massage. It's the first unit next to the flower shop.
Not too far from the Chatterbox Diner.
Right.
So we felt this was super appropriate, and we were glad that it was being added to all of the other things that are being done in that area.
I noticed that although we have a signed thing here, there was no approve yes or no. You're certain this been approved by the property owner? I'm looking at page 11.
Yeah, you don't have all of the documents because we don't put them in your homework, but we have a much bigger
I'm just looking at
packet.
this sheet right here.
Yeah, we have a packet
Okay.
of information.
So on this document
So
right
she
here,
had to
it
give
says
her-
yes or no, and it's not circled.
Oh, okay. She gave her lease agreement, and he has to sign a document saying it's okay.
And he is a signature.
Right here.
Here
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Yeah,
page
he
11.
signed.
All right.
Yeah, so, no, we have, yeah. Mallory checks it all. We wouldn't put it forward to, she didn't.
And we don't have quotes.
Well, she says she doesn't, but she actually does have one quote, so I was a little confused by that.
Okay.
Because she does actually have that, well, it's an estimate, but she has it for the door and screen and repair and the window trim and this, and.
Right, yeah. So
and then-
I just, but as
and-
long as it's gone through ARPA committee, because
Yeah,
one of the things that I thought was required was to have quotes, so that's probably.
yeah, I mean, she actually has, I don't know why she checked no on everything, because we actually have some.
Oh, okay.
So, and some of them were estimates based on things that she had looked up. So she has written out where she's getting them. So some of them aren't as official looking, but they're real numbers based on where she's planning to get them with real prices per each.
We actually had the same questions based on the way she filled
Yeah.
out the application.
Kind of confusing.
I'm wondering if she got a little confused about the quote-unquote bin secured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as we double check stuff, and then what we do is if we have questions, Mallory goes and follows up and brings it back into the committee too. And then there's also checkpoints with Mallory as they proceed through the process. So
Right, she does reporting with them monthly.
yeah. So we were satisfied with the interpretation and the correction to the what she had put in there.
Where are we standing on ARPA funds? Because there's a flower shop right next door to the massage.
And it's
you know?
funny, I printed it out and then I didn't bring it here. We're down,
Oh, I've got it.
you got the one of the most recent, I
Yeah.
re-updated it for the, got it,
Oh,
yeah,
how
because I sent
much?
it to everybody. Well, we've spent
We're
all but about
close.
4,000.
Wait a minute,
This
that's-
will bring us to like 4,000 in the storefront.
Here's July.
Improvement program. It's still pretty close. We're about, so the storefront improvement program has, I think, about 4,000 unallocated. I think that was her number. And we have about, this will change a little bit. It's about, because we're doing 4,000. So it's about 16,000 that has been unobligated or de-obligated from other projects. So we're looking at how to either wrap that into something else or, and there's still a few projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, but again, Board of Assessors software, she's just waiting for them to come and do it. The cruiser radar, I pushed John, he's already sent that's again something that's on order. You wait till they send it to you.
Right.
And the door lock upgrades, that's me. We're also waiting on a piece of hardware that's like the computer brain to do the locks. So
Okay.
everything else is either started or completed. So they're mostly in progress.
But we're super close on the total because we need it to be totally allocated by the
Allocated.
end of this,
right.
by December.
Yes.
Right?
So we'll,
it has to be allocated, not expended.
right, it doesn't have to be expended till 2026, but it has to be allocated. So we'll make sure that before the end of the year, the last bits are allocated. And so we're looking to see whether there's other programs or other requests to do the last bit
Okay.
as they come in.
We could really use some lights. I'm
Yeah.
not joking. I'm serious.
Can
I mean,
we-
if there's, because I loathe to say anything after we spent so much on the desk, but the light is actually kind of more important. I need to be able to see.
And to Sarah's point, one thing that I've noticed, it's very important to read what your body is telling you. And I know I'm only 30, I'm not old yet, but I can't see in the dark as well as I used to. And it really annoys me and I don't like it. So I don't know what that is, but it's not cool, so we need to do something
Well,
about that.
Just the beginning.
Well, there's these recessed
you
lights,
don't have
and these
reading
are the
glasses,
panels,
do you?
so we
Not
can
yet.
have someone look at lights in the
It
panels.
doesn't have to be fancy. I just have to be able to see.
Well, these aren't actually very fancy, the recessed lights that you put in
Get
the
some lights
panel.
in here, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we should
Okay.
approve the storefront improvement project. So
Alrighty.
anyone want to make a motion on that?
Where's my, sorry, I lost all my stuff.
State the applicant information.
I move that I'm just looking for the total amount. Where's you got it? Oh, thank you. Okay. I move that we approve the latest storefront improvement project for Zosie Massage totaling $4,383.
Second.
Second from Heath. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then lastly, the premium pay correction.
Yes. Addendum. So you had in your homework a description of what we did, and I just want to make one correction to that. And the numbers that I'm giving is actual patient contact, so it's the number of patients, not the number of hours. So when Andrea was talking earlier about EMS and the whole regionalization and the amount of data, so I've been on the select board for a little over 3 years, and when I was talking with Chief Fortier and with Andrea and with the ARPA committee, I have spent a number of different times talking with Chief Fortier about how EMS works, and I'm still learning. So what this does is if you recall back in June, what we did is we approved premium pay for all employees in all departments who had worked during March 12th, 2020 to April 8th, 2021, and were still employed with the town. So using total hours works for all the departments, including EMS. This particular request addresses the additional challenge faced by EMS, which is best measured by patient contact. So some employees experience more patient contact and exposure, and that's basically because as part of their hours, they're actually listening to emergency calls and they're jumping in as extra help. And that pretty much falls on 4 employees, one of whom already has received the maximum premium pay. So I would say it's closer to, if you look at the 4 employees, they basically take up close to 60% of patient contact during that time period. What we're trying to do here is address the 3 employees by giving them a lump sum award of $1,500, not to exceed the maximum award of $3,000. What that does is it gives more premium pay to those employees for their patient contact.
But actually, we're taking the risk.
Right, who were actually doing the bulk of the patient contact. What we did, just from a historical standpoint, is we reserved $62,000. In June, we requested $46,872.25, and then we expended $41,814. And this, as the treasurer went through, there were some employees who were no longer still actively employed. So that's why that amount was lower than what was approved. So this request is for $4,500, and it takes the total expended back up to $46,314. So just shy of what was approved in June. So it's basically we're back at where we were in June.
Right. This is just basically adding a factor to include the actual call volume that resulted in patient contact, not just the hours. So some employees responded and they might have responded and been on multiple calls for 3 or 4 hours, whereas somebody was in the station on an 8 or 10 hour shift. And so they had more hours, but the other people were actually jumping in and getting more call volume, more patient contact, more actual risk. And that wasn't apparent in the formula that we were trying to. It's the only department where that would be the case, where you just couldn't see it in the hours. Everybody else, hours were hours on, and but they were the only ones that, due to the unique nature of on-call and
Let's get them paid.
risk. So.
And it doesn't change the.
No, we don't have to add any more.
We're
to
still
our
less
allocation.
than what we approved in June.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we're still at 20,000 left.
All right.
over.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
A motion to approve the premium pay correction.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, yeah, very good.
And thank you to Chief Fortier for spending extra time going through all this.
So, next, police officer screening and hiring committee.
No, you did trust fund.
No, trust fund.
You have to do the
What?
trust fund.
Oh, I'm sorry, I completely skipped one.
It's because you couldn't see.
There you go.
There
He's
we
the
go.
closest one to sitting under a light.
So there we go. That's it. That does it. And then we can argue that we don't want to violate any laws, so we need better lighting so we don't break the law. So, yeah,
We'll do it when we do the hearing loops, too.
that's right. Trust fund committee request to reimburse loaves and fishes for $3,363.70, and that was for emergency financial assistance.
It's in
Yes,
here.
they're in there and you don't discuss them openly.
Right. That's a personal matter for those.
They're recommended by the trust fund committee that
Yep.
needs to review all the requests.
Yep.
And I've made a note to, we've talked about having the treasurer come in the future, and I've made a note under that to have her maybe talk a little bit about the trust funds. So she's been doing some research on the trust funds. Because interestingly enough, we were trying to track down what's the original balance, because technically most won't expend anything but the interest, and she wants to make sure that their allocation doesn't exceed that.
Yep.
But when I was looking at the town meetings back in the 40s, it looks like they were awarding these trusts funds.
Oh, so this goes back to the 40s.
It does. It
Oh,
looks like the
interesting.
original balance was something like $8,500.
Wow.
And now there's about 100,000. I said, you're in good shape, you're okay.
Mhm.
I
Good.
think they can spend this money and not touch the principal. So she's putting a lot of that together, so.
It's nice to help those in need.
Somebody
Well,
had
in
the
the-
forethought to put together a trust to do it. which
There's
is really-
several requests in the total, so we're going to do the total in the motion, but there's actually several
Yes.
very reasonable requests
Yes.
for support.
We need not mention them, but to
yeah.
just approve the total.
I move that we approve the trust fund committee request to reimburse Loaves and Fishes for $3,363.70 for emergency financial assistance.
Second.
Second from Sarah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that takes care of that. All right. Police officer screening and hiring committee appointments.
We're getting ready to
Yay!
do some interviews for that position and the assistant treasurer collector. So we need to get some volunteers from the select board who would like to serve on
There we
that,
go, that's my
on
light.
those committees. I don't have the exact dates that usually I wait till I get the volunteers and I try to.
I would like to be on the screening and hiring committee. I take a firm passion and interest in the direction of our law enforcement in this community, and I would also like to use my master's degree in criminal justice administration for once, and I think doing that through the hiring and screening is a great way of using it. So that's my my argument.
Is it
And
for
I-
both screening and hiring, or one or the other? What do you need?
They do both.
I'm
generally.
happy to be on it as well.
Okay. How many do you need?
Just two, if people are.
Did anybody else seek interest in that? No? Okay. So you're cool to do it with me then?
Yeah.
Well, then we've got the next one coming too, so.
So does that need a motion? We don't need a motion on that, right?
I think we do.
Cool.
No.
No, I think you can just volunteer for that. It's not a
All right.
committee.
All right.
I mean,
Oh, okay.
Thank you, folks.
And then I need the assistant treasurer collector screening and hiring appointments.
I'm happy to do that one as well.
And I'll do that one as long as we can get, calendar.
Yeah,
it.
well, try to send it out and get a, but I start by sending you the applications and then getting your things, and then we try to, but we've had these out for a while. There's not a ton of candidates. These are two positions where you're not going to get a ton of candidates. So once we get to at least enough to do the process, we go for it.
It'll be a small but mighty group.
It
Okay.
will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that takes care of that.
Yep.
Very good,
Perfect.
folks. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I can't think of anything. I don't think there were any unanticipated topics. Committee and board appointments, none. Proposed agenda items. Let's go to our sheet here. Talk about proposed agenda items. So we have a few things left here for the August 22nd meeting.
Actually, we've got quite a few things coming up for August 22nd.
Police officer appointment, so Screening.
Possibly, we're hoping that, if we get through the process in 2 weeks, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
new PBRS principals, I saw the email there.
Yes, that is scheduled. You're going to PBRS and Northfield Elementary School principals, two principals.
Outstanding.
So we'll see where we are on the other things. Also, we have two. Are we at two? Two special event permits.
No. All right.
Dues is one of them. Oh, never mind. We're on proposed.
Yeah, so we will have those on there. So I just wanted to let people know that those are coming, so that they will be a few minutes there. So
Okay.
So,
Can
yeah.
we put the EMS building committee on here as a topic? You can put it under TBD. I'll just be curious what he thinks as they have a meeting coming up this week.
so we can talk about it.
Just
Yeah.
next steps,
Okay.
etc.
Sure. Yeah.
At
That's
one
fine.
point, we had discussed, actually, I think it was you, B, that we had discussed getting some new blood on that group, some new faces on there.
So composition plus
Composition,
update
okay.
plus approach,
Yeah.
all of that. But I'm just
I'll make a
gonna
note to
throw
get
it on
on
there as a.
Yep. I know they're talking about some sort of hiatus, but it's a good time then to talk about composition before the next
Mhm.
round.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a fairly decent agenda for the end of our summer. I know we like to go a little lighter this time of year because everyone's traveling and stuff like that. So, if that's good, and then of course, if anything else comes in when I meet with Sandra and Andrea, we can
Yeah.
discuss that then. So.
We can bring other
I don't think
things.
it's urgent. I just want to see it on the list. So when we
Okay.
have a good moment in time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Any announcements? I don't think so.
I do actually have an announcement.
Oh.
So I had gotten a lot of questions from residents about the opening of the boat ramp, and that is there are a bunch of different organizations that are in charge of different pieces of it. For instance, the DCR, the Department of Conservation and Rec, is in charge of the water, and they have gone through and cut up logs that were blocking the ramp. The Massachusetts Boating and Fishing is in charge of the ramp itself and removing silt and clearing off the area. The police initially requested Highway to block off the ramp because of junk in the way that was dangerous, and then DCR requested that, or the Massachusetts Boating and Fishing requested that all of the boat ramps on the Connecticut River be closed because of bacterial load. Now, they tested on Monday, and every ramp except for Northfield is open. And Northfield isn't open because the silt deposits made it untenable. So they still need to go in and they need to dig out to depth and dig out to width for access. But obviously the fire, we have cones up, we're not fully blocking it because the fire needs to have emergency access were there to be some reason for that. So as of, I think yesterday, it was still blocked, but if folks go and see the cones missing, they'll know it's now open. But there is still some question about the bacterial load, and they are still evaluating the silt from various locations, but it seems to be open for boating at least.
Okay.
You were looking at that today, right? Yeah, that we noted, she checks. And that
Well, it was in the papers.
yeah, and it's still closed, yes, we're still closed, technically still closed.
Great.
I have one announcement too.
All right.
FERCog is going to be having a shoe spraying for ticks
Oh, yeah.
on Saturday from 1 to 4. The plan is to have it at the pavilion if the parking lot's open and that. If not, it probably will be right over across from the IGA. They'll set up a tent. What they're going to do is you bring a pair of shoes, they stick it in a container, they spray it, give you in a plastic bag, you let it sit for 24 hours, and it repels ticks. So if you're working in your yard, the ticks won't be climbing up your legs.
Like people who like to hike, whatever, bring your hiking boots in
Yeah.
and do your boots.
Yeah.
It kills on contact. Some of my research was in Lyme disease and tick, and they use permethrin, which is what they're spraying on the boots, to drag and kill the ticks and catch them.
Yeah,
so.
I mentioned it. I even put a poster up at the golf course and mentioned
We have that on
for their
the
golfers
website?
that in the woods all the time.
Yeah, we could,
Yeah.
So,
It's a good
yeah,
one.
we're posted down here.
Out of all things to
so
survive.
that's from
We
that's
should-
from
it
one
should,
that's
right?
from 1 to 4.
Throughout
That's
human
Saturday,
history.
right?
Why does
That's
that
this
have to
Saturday.
So also Saturday afternoon is the 350th Deerfield Northfield softball
Softball.
game
that's
too,
right.
around the same time. So if you need a
Get
anyway,
your
I'm
tick
just
shoes done first. You have to leave them in the bag, so it's not gonna help.
Yeah.
you can play softball and get
Where is that
That's
going to be?
West
It's going to be
Northfield.
West
West
Northfield?
Northfield, the other playground.
Okay.
It should be open, Bernie. If they paid Friday, it will be drivable by Saturday.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was told.
We'll
but if
see.
for some reason,
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
weather
we
permitting.
have,
Yeah.
Okay.
One other announcement.
Yes.
We have no longer a vacant seat on the school committee
Yes.
for Northfield. We've had an appointee step up to
Yay!
take the place
Who is that person, Heath?
by the last name of Cummings.
Oh,
Yeah.
My lovely wife decided to
And
step up
she's-
and
good for
All good
her.
now?
fill the role. And this was prior to any recent decisions they made. It was something that's been on the
She's
works.
been thinking
before
about that for a
so-
while.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Good for her.
So I wanted
Bravo.
to. I don't know how to do it because I know we've had some boards who've, and this probably should have been on the proposed agenda items, but we've had some boards who have said we haven't been in front of the select board, or they feel like they should be in front of us a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can plan on like getting a rotation, like every other meeting we have a department come in, so then that way we get a filter through, because it would be great to check in with like the rec to see how the summer rec program went here, because I know Bernardston's was really busy and theirs wasn't. So just little things like that to get check-ins with the different departments, but hear from everybody. We see Tom, we see fire department, we see police. But I mean, what are these other departments? I mean, I know we heard at town meeting that the Board of Health doesn't get invited in here, and you know, they should really know how to get access to us if they needed to. But hearing from more of these departments would be, you know, great on a regular basis.
Okay.
Well, I think we used to put that under updates.
Yeah.
Just we would cycle through different, because we've done highway, police. I think we've mostly been focused on public safety and
Who else
highway.
don't we see other than
Well, I mean, rec could come in,
Rec.
the treasurer collector, but I'm planning to hopefully bring her in when we have the auditor come in. I'm waiting for
Yep.
him to confirm. And I want Mallory to come in, but we were kind
Yep.
of waiting till fall because that's when all the grants are gonna get awarded. So then she'll have, something to talk about with
Right.
what we might have coming up. So,
We had food pantry and related services.
you do have
Sewer.
September Comerford.
Sewers come in at different points.
And
That was the point that was
You do
brought
have
up at the
Sen-
town
Senator
meeting.
Comerford coming October 17th.
Yep.
As well, so that's on there.
For
So.
a final
Redcom.
announcement, would you, I saw that you had the piece of paper, the school board has some times when the community's supposed to show up.
Oh, yes, for that, yes, the Pioneer School District is doing their school building development plan for long-term future planning. They've hired an architecture firm. They're putting together a district planning committee to end up with a facilities master plan. The committee's meeting certain times, but they are doing community forums. This is the dates they've posted. So community forum number 1 and launch of the survey number 1 is listed as Monday, September 18th, 5:30 to 7:30. So that will be a community forum. And then they have a community forum number 2, and that's going to be in November. So we'll update it then. But the first one that they have listed is Monday, September 18th, 5:30 to 7:30. We'll have to look and see where it's posted. I don't know where they're going to meet yet, but that's already on their calendar. So people who want to be following that or weighing in on this facilities master plan will want to.
I don't know how I was just looking at their recent district update. So they do district updates. I don't know if you guys are all on but if you send your email to Patricia, because I think they mentioned that on a prior update, and the recent
wow.
one was mostly about the principals.
But it would be good to hear from them, like on that regular rotating basis.
Outside right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, we usually have them come in. It'll be a little bit later in the fall to begin the
Yep.
budget process.
The
Like we should
kickoff
be
of the
hearing from
budget.
our representatives, though. Like we should
Yeah.
be seeing the Northfield reps a little more
Oh.
often to kind of discuss things with them to get an open line of communication.
Interesting.
The other proposed agenda item that I just remembered, so I don't know if
Oops.
this is okay to still bring it up. Yes. Yes, Alex.
Yeah, go
Put it
ahead.
on the
Okay.
agenda.
Breaking, I think this is a conversation to have with the finance committee. I don't think this is a decision we make, but not having the school's budget within the omnibus. I know that it's been that way in the past, I recall, and is it only recently that we put the school's budget in the omnibus, or has it always been that way?
It's always been that way since I've been here.
Okay. Because I know there's been people, and this is discussions that are happening in other nearby towns in the school district, that they may have concerns about the school's budget, but they don't want to affect the overall approval
Oh, yeah.
of everything happening
You
in the
you
town.
can motion
so
to pull it out. That's what
Yeah.
people do. They'll motion to vote everything but the school budget and take it as 2 separate motions.
definitely think it's like a conversation for the finance committee
Yeah.
to have, but it was
Can
just something
restructure
that I'd like to move forward, because I've heard that discussion more than once in the last year or two. So
Yep, absolutely. And I just wanted to do, if you're going on to recognition for
Yeah, that's
service,
fine. Yep.
I want to recognize the trust fund board that do Loaves and Fishes for their work and getting together as needed and going through the applications and meeting and doing those awards.
Do you want to say who's on the board?
Well, if I have the full board, do you know the full board? But the chair, the person we deal with.
She's not a chair, she's
I guess-
head of Loaves and Fishes.
Okay, yeah, she's of Loaves and Fishes.
Okay. Well, shout out to to the whole
Kathy.
unnamed group.
Kathy Hawken Harris does the loaves and fishes, and then we have a
She's
trust
awesome.
fund board that she comes to. But we can get their names, and I just,
I
thought of
think
when
it'd
we were
be
going
nice.
through it, so I
Yeah.
don't necessarily have all the names, but I think that just to
Yeah.
recognize their work, because they
Shout out to
do
the
it
highway
quietly and
department too.
efficiently.
Yes, and regularly. And shout out to the highway department. It's very exciting to have the project ongoing.
Yes, absolutely.
Although
Alright.
they'll be very happy in the lower back when it's done, because the compacting is, I think, making their teeth rattle.
Oh God.
We feel it. I can't imagine what it's like in their office. So,
Motion to adjourn.
much as we appreciate it.
Yes, I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in discussion? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
folks.
Oh, that was nice and short.
Thank you.
Thank you.